think it's close to 12 months ago Ben came in and had a chat to us about the things he does. Since that time, he's been travelling the globe. I don't know how much of the globe, but enough of it to see a 700,000-year-old beach and to save some turtles. So we've invited him back here today to talk to us about what he's been doing over the last 12 months and show us some of the splendid artwork he has created.
Last time I was here, I'd had about 9 years to prepare for it. I went through about 9 years worth of work. This time I've only got about a year's worth. So I'll take you through 2 projects that I've been doing. The first one was at Narracourt Caves. That was through January and February. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Narracourt Caves before, but it's a World Heritage Site and it's known for its megafauna. Now, once, millions of years ago, it was a coral reef, but the coral turned to limestone, and over time the limestone created these massive holes that filled the landscape. So all sorts of megafauna fell into these holes. And so my project down there was to create an artwork that told this story, not just about, say, the caves, like it's famous for its caves, sure, but about the stories that the caves told. So you can see here, this creature is called Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion, about so big, and it hunted things like diprotodons, and it's lived through the last ice age. Here you can see some of the cave formations. These are called straws. They're very thin and they're actually hollow. So the longest of these can take thousands of years to form. That's some of the bushland, some of the shoals. These were absolutely amazing. A bunch of tourists came in. I think they were a Chinese group and actually knocked this off, stole it whilst I was there. And
as in not as
this,
in stole it?
Yeah, as in stole it. They came in and that particular part of it was knocked off and stolen. So, you know, the sequence of caves is pretty amazing because there's all sorts of different caves. There's even in one of the caves, there's a cricket ball lodged up in the roof, which is the limestone slowly growing over it. Back in the 1800s, they used to play cricket in there. But some of the shoals, like this one here, you can see were absolute. That doesn't do it justice at all. You'd really have to see these caves to believe them. So the work that I was asked to do was, so I basically lived there for 2 months. They provided everything. That's about 2 meters long, and it tells the story of like all sorts of different facets of it. For example, if I scroll down here first, over time the sea has receded, and each one of these sand dunes that now exists is a former beachfront. And when white people came in, they drained a lot of this. There was lots of lagoons in there, and now it's wonderful for the wine and things, of course. But Narracourt Caves was just up here somewhere. This top part was interesting to me because that's actually a real soil profile, and what they've done there digging back over 50,000 years, digging down into the layers, they looked at what kinds of different vegetation was there. 2 of the paleoecologists worked on that, and that was pretty fascinating. I shot some short films on it, so you're digging down through the sediments and you're able to tell, by looking at the soil profile, you can tell something about the types of forests and things that were growing there at the different points in time. Bull Lagoon, it's Ramsar listed. It attracts, it's huge, but it's just a remnant of what was once there, but still attracts bird life from all around the world. And there's all sorts of different features in here. Some of the megafauna you can see here. Obviously it doesn't show up too well on the screen. And bats, there's a type of critically endangered bat there as well, southern bent-winged bat. and there's very, very few of them left. So, and it was really amazing because in the evenings what I do is you go and there was these seats and they were doing this bat count. They had this bat monitoring program. So I'd sit there in the seat and there's this hole and you just wait and then you hear this kind of whoosh kind of sound and then they'd all come out and they never hit you. But there's like thousands of them coming at you and they'd get about this far away from you and then dodge. And it took me a while to get used to that. But, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. and so you've got the sea coming in through the Miocene and all sorts of different pieces are in this work. But I think I'll just move on to...
Before you do, where are Narrabeen Caves?
In South Australia, between... They're on the border of... but they're on the South Australian side of South Australia and Victoria.
Yeah. And are they a tourist destination?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge...
So it's somewhere we could go and see the stuff that you...
Sure you could. Sure, there's camping sites there and they're developing it now as well. So Narrabeen Caves, World Heritage listed site and really remarkable. This doesn't even touch on it. They've got those big stuffed creatures of the ancient Ice Age beasts and stuff. It's pretty awesome experience. So after that, what I wanted to do in Narrabeen and I couldn't do was create more of an interactive experience. The concept, and I couldn't do it there, but now I have done it with one of the IT people from CSIRO, was to have a site by which you could go online and you could click on these hotspots and just short films would pop up based on the science being done on the site. You know, the ecology, geology, deep time history, which is a far more kind of immediate way of communicating the science as opposed to just putting up an artwork. So that's one of the, yes, I'll backtrack a bit. The next project I did was at the Eco-Sciences Precinct, and that exhibition's on at the moment. That's the Eco-Sciences Precinct in Brisbane. And there was so I did my own work, but I put together a collective for it because there's over 800 scientists just in that building. And so there's just too many for one artist. So I thought, well, that's crazy. We'll bring together a collective of these, you know, the really good artists, and I'll work individually with different artists. They'll do their own thing, can work collaboratively on different projects as well. So it's quite a different kind of thing for me. And this was the artwork that I created from a project. What I wanted to do was create an artwork about the Great Barrier Reef, but also look at something which was similar, and that another ecosystem, and that turned out to be El Nido in the Philippines. So I contacted El Nido Eco Resorts, and they said, yes, come over. And so they took me around the islands in El Nido, which is part of the Palawan Island, it's part of the Philippines. But what we were able to do in this work, I can't show you, but if you get online, you'll be able to see it. I can send you the link at some point. And what this artwork does is throughout it now we have hotspots. So it's really good for schools and stuff because it brings the science to the school kids. So if I was to say, look at, say, a specific detail, let's just say origin of the Philippines. Okay, all right. So say in here, for example, like I'd click on this link here, and which will tell the story about Palawan, and then a film like this comes up, or this exact film, and Palawan itself is here, and you can see it's quite different to the rest of the Philippines. This is counting back over millions of years. So the rest of the Philippines is much, much younger than the Palawan material. I get very excited about these things. It's pretty amazing. Australia's coming in from down here. There it is. Well, this isn't at school either, but it should be, of course. If people don't know the... Yeah, it is now, through this. Through this it is. We've got to get approval now, through these different regulatory bodies at the schools, but it will be, and in the future there'll be more of them. I'm going to Alice Springs next week to do another one. So anyway, that's just an example. We don't have, look, I'll show you a little bit of what El Nido was like, so you get an idea of the place. Again, it's limestone, but it's, and you can't hear this, unfortunately. I'll just turn that down because I can't, it's distracting. But the limestone, as opposed to Narracourt, which is all under the ground, the limestone in this case is different. It's eroded quite differently. These huge formations above the ground. So you can go into these places, and there's all these amazing lagoons. So you're on a boat, and you cruise around from island to island. And I was with the environmental officers there. So they taught me a lot of different stuff. Again, about ecology, geology, deep time history. When I came back and on the Filipino side, on the Australian side with the Great Barrier Reef, there's a lot of other information, but I won't go into too much of that now. On this project again, Marley Moyer is one of the best scientific illustrators in Australia. So I invited her to work on this project with me, and she provided some of these details. And so again, it was one example in which I was able this time to collaborate with one of these really brilliant artists who was part of the collective. I'm going to just zoom through these projects. How long do I have?
6 minutes to talk and then 10 minutes off.
Right. Okay. This was one of my projects personally. This shows the average surface temperature of Queensland through time. So I thought, well, I'll take that, and what I'll do is create a three-dimensional model, which is this model here. And so I think this is going back to 1910. I'd have to have a look. But up until the present, I'm skeptical of this part because I consulted a scientist on this, and I don't think that's exactly correct. That's what the data came up to about here, 2011. So
basically what that is, you're showing us global warming. Is that
no. That's just one facet of it. It's just one little detail. Global warming's much bigger than that, obviously, but that's just the surface temperature, average surface temperature, Queensland. So again, another one of the artists that was there, I gave it to her, and she wove a basket out of it. That's cool. So she's holding it upside down. So I pointed out that time's going in the opposite direction, which was cool. It was fine. This was the finished result, the finished render, and I can print that out on a 3D printer, which is cool.
You print that 3D or maybe 3D?
Yes. Yeah, I've done it before with other ones. All right, I'll touch on this very, very briefly. One of the many species which is threatened with extinction in Queensland. There's so many now. It's just incredible. We're heading toward like a major extinction event in Queensland. And this is the Croombit tinker frog, a really nice little frog. And there was a survey done, which I don't have the data here, but anyway, it was a survey done in one specific area, and I think 2009 was the last time they found the species in this particular area. It's found in the Croombit tops, and that's what the place looks like. So what I did with a wonderful sculptor is we made this, and this sits on a plinth, and underneath is an animation, which I won't play now, and on top of it is a sculpture, but this sculpture is based on the survey that was done. So each ring represents a different survey until obviously at the top there's nothing left. They're not there anymore. And we do have a nice little frog that sits next to it too, but that came in a little bit after I'd done the photographs. One of the main culprits, along with fire, land clearing, feral pigs, etc., is the citrid fungus, and what it does, it's killing frogs all around the world, is that it dries out frog skin and they breathe through their skin, so they suffocate. Came from Africa. I think it was spread around the world because it's a particular frog people liked to eat. If it was just in that particular state in that area, that would have been fine. This one is about mining on the Darling Downs. Again, another fantastic artist that I worked with. The last artist was Alicia Lane, I should have said that. This is William Boot. So the satellite imaging people at CSIRO gave me this image. It's just in that little area there on the coal seam gas mining on the Darling Downs. So you can see these wells have spread all over the place now. So I thought, well, we'll take this section and we'll tell like a story, and we'll put it in Infinity Box. And that was fun. We thought we'd do something initially with bee eyes, and that's a render of how it looks through a bee's point of view, and that didn't work. But it was just sort of a bit of a dead end. So again, this is what an Infinity Box looks like. So you look through the hole, and we did a painting, put it inside it as well. There's different sculptural parts. And these are just stills. This changes, you see. We've got different lights, and I put in my iPad at one point, and so told this story. And if you were to see this as filmed inside, it keeps changing colour and keeps changing shape. And it's just telling this story of mining on the Darling Downs. And that was great. In fact, William found the glass in Finland, then he took it to Canada and had the box built there, then he took it to Korea and painted the artwork, and then he posted it to me, which was good, and I did my part to it. So I'll show you this. This is William's usual work. So you can see between myself and William we created something very, very different. This was something that I did with a wonderful sculptor called Knut Mueller, and this is the work. So it tells different things about the tree of life and stuff, and that was pretty awesome. I'll just say something about the base. The base shows the biomass fluctuations in the tree of life over 300 million years. It's cut out of sandstone. So this is the Permian extinction, where we lost, well, we weren't around, but over 90% of everything disappeared. I think that's, how long do I have? That's about it? Okay, we'll leave it at that, I think. So that's what I've done so far this year. I'm delighted that finally we've got interactivity happening in the residency type works, and now we can get that into schools, and that's a very big deal. This exhibition, after it finishes up at Eco Sciences Precinct, there's an event on Thursday night with a panel, and I'm talking on the panel about the fusion between the sciences and the arts, and the ecology, geology, deep time history stuff that I'm interested in. After that it goes to Adelaide, and there's, I don't exactly know what it is, but I know it's something through the ABC, and it's a gallery space and they're making some film on it, but I don't know any more than that. That's about the end of it for now.
Well, I have a question that might bring this into perspective. The first time Ben came to speak, it was probably a bit of a dual purpose, wasn't it, Steve? Because Ben was looking to tell us what he was about. And if memory serves, the question was then put to this group as to how what Ben does can be, well, not turned into a business as such, but man's got to eat, and what entrepreneurial ways could his work that's linking science, art, all sorts of things together in a visual, interactive form, how could that be promoted and grown, I suppose? The upshot of it was, and I'm going to hand over to Peter in a minute, because I'm putting him on the spot. Peter, took on Ben as a project. Would that be fair to say, Ben?
I don't mind saying that. That's okay.
Just thought I'd check. So, Peter, what happened after that meeting, which was, what, several months ago now? Stand up a little bit. That's the question. Yes, that's the question. Tell us how Ben's back here and he's done some other projects. What's the commercial sort of side of this now?
Well, will you go and stand beside Ben so the mic can pick you up first?
Well, in the introduction that I was going to do, and Steve forgot about, of Ben, is that we've developed quite a good working relationship. We've resolved the issues with Bond University and have some support from them, particularly from Professor Jeff Brand, who is the person overall in charge of the area of gaming and apps at the university. The university doesn't have the capacity to actually build this, but over the course at our office, which is up on the corner of the Eco Precinct called Picnic Point, where Ben and I meet and have coffee very regularly, we've developed quite a close working relationship, and today at 12 o'clock we're presenting the concepts of what Ben sees as the commercial application that we've already tested in the Bond project, which didn't have legs because of illness and a couple of other monetary problems, to a major digital production house to see what they think of it. So the thing has moved along. Ben ducks off for periods of time, chasing his turtles in the Philippines. He's off to Central Australia next week. He leads an incredibly busy life, which I found quite fascinating. He is not a traditional artist in the sense that you would perceive someone with a paintbrush and goes out and sits on a little seat and paints the landscape. Ben is constantly thinking and evolving his ideas, and they change not just daily, but in parts of days.
Parts of days. They
changed on the way here this morning. When we finish, because my other job with Ben is I'm his chauffeur for some of these things. So when we finish this morning, I'm dropping him back home, and he's actually going to change something that we were going to do at this presentation at lunchtime. So keep your fingers crossed, because this is the first outing for Ben's concepts into the world of real business possibilities and entrepreneurship.
That's fine. That's good. Oh, excellent. This coming up today, brilliant. Worked on this for a very, very long time, and the Bond people saw it, and at that time they thought, well, that was great. They funded it. But then we had some critical person got very sick, so the way it works there is if the funding goes to that specific person, if that person drops out, leaves the uni, whatever, then we don't get the funding. And the gaming department there wasn't particularly large, so that was sort of that. And then, of course, as you know, after that, I met Peter here with his history at Bond, and that was probably better, because what Peter's been able to do is help me streamline this to then take to like potentially serious company, serious commercial company. And they do television programs and of course the apps and the gaming thing. They do lots of different things. So it's a very important meeting today.
Is it a picnic point?
No. No, this is...
So Peter, it'd be fair to say that one of the struggles when Ben first came was he really was asking us, you were really asking Ben what, I think he made a statement somewhere along the lines of your, as far as turning this into a business or a way for you to, earn a living but do what you do.
There's different parts of it. I think last time I was just talking to you about the ecology, geology, deep time history stuff, and it's fine to, you sell these things, but what I wanted to do, what I still want to do, is get the stuff into, say, I'd love to get it into hotels. I'd love to be able to take it to, say, a hotel and say, here's the whole theme, here's a concept theme for your hotel, and then sell it onto a, that would be great. With some of you know, I have a company called Art Australis, and that would be wonderful for Art Australis. What I'm doing with Peter is totally different. And as you've seen today for the first time, there's other stuff that I do too. But last time we were just talking about the ecology, geology, deep time history, like the Narracourt one that you saw, and like the El Nido one that you saw. This time we also have interactivity built into the same images that I'd like to be selling off.
Well, from a website perspective, I think it's quite interesting because I think there's lots of opportunities into the schools and the education side. That side.
I've been trying to get there for a long time. I think, like I said last time, in 2010, I put a proposal to the Royal Society of Victoria, who were putting an expedition together on the Burke and Wills Environmental Expedition. So we went from Melbourne to the Gulf, and so I was the artist for that. But they, what we had was we had films on one side, we had these artworks on the other side, we had kids printing off the artworks and looking at the films. We had no interactivity between the two, but now we do have that. So that's excellent in terms of getting it into schools and making it fun.
So the reason I brought that up was to just try and, for the new people who guess that here, to show that it's kind of, this is all happening because Ben came to speak and then a resource from a business club latched onto it and a partnership formed, and so you never know what you're going to get or what opportunities can arise when you're part of a networking group, I suppose, really where the point I wanted to make.
Well, the basis too of what Tony's saying is that underlying all of this has been a very serious exercise of developing a series of case statements and distilling them down into what we see as a product, an act, for want of a better word. We've been through an action planning phase, which has involved the university and the credibility of what Ben's been doing at Narracourt, because that's an invited position. They've invited him to come back and do more work into the future. This eco-precinct work. So what I was able to identify for Ben was a lot of what he did in sort of his artistic pursuits was in fact credibility statements about the quality of what he is doing and what his concepts are, not just airy-fairy arty stuff.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that material was brilliant because now we have that material on hand. Initially with Bond, I was able to take it to somebody who's just the kind of creative kind of mind, and she said, oh yes, we can do it for sure. But if I was taking it to the kind of business end, the hard-nosed business end, we're doing that today, to not have the material that Peter's now helped me with, you know, now we can present that material and say, this is why you'd want to do it, and furthermore, this is how you would do it. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I think today will go well.
No, I think it's all good success.
Okay, we have to wrap it there. Time is up.
Thank you.